Welcome back, it's Kyle with All in Survival, and today we're going to be talking about some concepts that might help you and your family survive a nuclear blast. In our history, the United States has always been prepared for nuclear events. We stopped doing that in the late 70s. So it's time for us to take, as a prepared society, to take a little bit of initiative and put some supplies, time, effort together and get ready for the potential. I'm not going to discuss whether if you're at ground zero and you're there when a nuclear blast goes off. Obviously, there is some luck involved in this. However, most people will be outside of the range of the initial blast and survive. It's what you do next that's going to be incredibly important. Now, a nuclear blast is usually going to happen at a couple of thousand meters above ground because they don't want to hit the ground. It will diminish much less. So a continental ballistic missile will explode a couple of thousand meters up, and it is the birth of a sun with 1 billion joules of energy. Now, anyone within about 3 miles who potentially is looking in that direction could be blinded forever. And what happens next? Well, everybody's watched the pictures from Nagasaki. It is a tragedy. However, if you're beyond 3 miles, there's a really good chance that you're going to survive. You need to know what the very next steps you need to take to survive and get back to your family in one piece is. The thermal flash and pressure wave take all that irradiated material and pulverize it into a very fine dust. And then the heat that can reach the surface of the sun for a millisecond uses a convection effect and throws it directly into the sky. This is the mushroom cloud. And after that mushroom cloud goes up, a stop clock starts at 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes to use 3 things that will help you survive: time, distance, and shielding. Now, the more time you spend away from the actual irradiated material, obviously, the safer you're going to be. The distance, the farther you get away from ground zero, the better you're going to be. And with shielding, if you put large amounts of concrete, wood, or actual dirt material between you and this irradiated material, the safer you and your family will be. We're going to talk about all of these different concepts more. Now, time is one of those very important things. In my household, when I talk to my family about emergency events, rule number 1 is always get home as fast as you can. Except in this particular situation. If you're farther than 15 minutes from a home, you are much, much safer to go ahead and start searching for a location to ride out the first 72 hours. If you're at work, you would find an inner building or inner room inside that building and try and seal up all of the ducts and wait out the 72 hours. And only then will you try to make your way home. At about 15 minutes, the largest particles that had been blasted into the air is going to start to rain down, and they're going to be about the size of sand or sugar or salt. And they're going to fall pretty heavy, but they're not going to be very fine, and you're going to be able to separate that from getting inside your lungs pretty easily. A wet t-shirt, if you can find a surgical mask, awesome. All of that will help in the first few minutes. After that, you're going to want to find yourself into a position where you wait out without having too much radiation in contact with your body. By every 7-fold factor of time, the irradiated will be less powerful by a factor of 10 that means after only 2 hours, the danger is already gone down by 50%. However, that 50% is still well within the ability to kill you. So we're going to have to just stay put. This sounds easy, but it's not, because there's going to be so much stuff going on, but you have to stay put. All right, I'd like to talk about 2 different scenarios and how we might handle those particular scenarios. The first one is that you're outside the blast area, let's say 4 miles from center of the impact zone. So you're going to likely survive this impact, but you're farther away than getting home in a reasonable amount of time. That 15 minutes is everything. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that a nuclear blast will potentially create an EMP. Your vehicle may not work. So if you're farther than about 5 to 7 minutes away and you have put no effort into protecting your vehicle, you're better off just to shelter in place and hunker down. All right, so I'm gonna put myself in the place of the person. I'm at work and a terrible rumble happens and the whole building shakes. Somebody goes outside and says that they feel like we just got hit by a nuclear blast. The power is likely to be off at my facility and a mushroom cloud can be seen in the distance. All right, what do you do? Well, as a father, the first thing that would go in through my mind would be, where is my wife and kid? And knowing that they would likely be home at the time, more than 10 miles from center of the blast, I would trust that they knew what to do. And I would hunker down for that first, let's say 48 to 72 hours. Now, I would find an area inside my work environment that doesn't have any windows, and it also doesn't have very many vents, or at least one vent easy enough to block off. Go to the break room and grab any kind of snacks or food that you can grab. Make sure that you grab, let's say, a 5-gallon bucket of sparkling water. Grab one of those and head for your little tiny room and shelter in place. No matter what everybody else is doing, shelter in place for that first at least 48 hours. At that point, if you want to take the risk and go ahead and start the process of trying to get home, hey, as a father, I would completely understand. But hunker down. Now, once you make it into your shelter, you're going to want to try and pull off all of the clothes that you're currently wearing, and then go ahead and wipe yourself down and get rid of anything that you had, right? Hopefully you have a spare set of clothes at work. Being in a work environment, I would also say to go ahead and put an N95 mask on, and or a regular mask, the surgical mask that everybody's been wearing during COVID. Go ahead and put one of those. Anything that you can do to keep dust, irradiated dust, from entering your body is a big plus. If you have access to goggles, go ahead and grab some of those too. You don't want anything to get into your eyes, any cuts, or into your lungs. The last thing I would say is that understand that people are going to be panicking. You need to put some thought into this. We call this gaming. Understand what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And no matter what everybody else is deciding the group is going to do, you do what you know needs to be done to get home safe to your family. Okay, scenario number 2. This is going to be at your home. Now, I'm going to use my home as the scenario. The Air Force base that's in my city is more than 10 miles away as the crow flies. And also downtown, the center of our city, is also more than 10 miles away from where I currently live. So the likelihood of my house being completely damaged in a nuclear blast is very low. However, there is a good chance that the windows will be blown out in a pressurized wave, and we need to handle that first. So just like anything else, 15-minute clock starts, and you need to, and I'm going to show you how we do this. I went ahead and bought some 10 mil plastic sheeting, and I've gone ahead and measured out all of the different windows in the front side of my house, and we've gone ahead and pre-cut everything so that I save time when this particular emergency happens. Each of these pieces is cut, marked, and labeled for each window, and they're sitting in each of those different rooms, kind of hiding behind different pieces of furniture. So we're gonna start by trying to seal up the broken windows. If only one window is broken, seal that one up first and then move on. The very next thing we're gonna do is start to grab these bobs. This is called a water bob. And we're going to put and fill this up in each of the two bathtubs in the house. Now, each one of these can hold over 100 gallons, right? So this is, you want to get the water out of the lines before it's contaminated. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the refrigerator and understand that the power in your house is likely not going to be working. We're going to take a cooler and we're going to take everything out of the refrigerator that does not need to be cooked and that can be eaten. This is mostly snack food, but take anything that you can, because having a little bit of fresh food during this tough time is going to be a positive for everybody involved. Any bottled water, any beer, any drinks that are sealed, perfect. Throw them in the cooler. Next, we're going to start to try and move our supplies into a safe room in our house. How do we pick a safe room? Well, if you have a basement, that's number one. Absolutely use it if you can. If you don't have a basement, try to pick the room in your house with the least amount of windows or vents. In Las Vegas, most of us have a master closet. And in this master closet, there's usually no windows, and there's also no AC vents. This is a huge advantage. And most of these closets are large enough to be able to hunker down for a short period of time. I've went ahead and started putting supplies in that location. And I'll show you some of the things that we're going to talk about and get into the supplies in the bag. First thing we're going to have is MREs, right? What we want to have is food that does not need to be cooked. This is a big plus. These are not cheap and they last about 5 to 7 years, but having these in a bag is a huge plus. The next thing we want to have in is Gorilla or duct tape. We want to use the duct tape to seal up the door and any light fixtures or anything, any place any dust can make it into that room. Wearing some surgical masks while you're in there for your 72 hours is also a plus. If possible, a battery backup and a air filter is a really good air purification unit, is a really good option. It's something that I'm working on right now. Next, we're going to have some of the potassium iodine. Potassium iodine is known to put the potassium into your thyroid glands so that your body cannot absorb too much of the irradiated negative effects, right? So we're going to have some of this and we're going to start taking it right away. We're going to have an extra box of the N95s, and don't forget to have a box of the 95s for the children too. The little man's not going to be able to fit into the large size. Now, during your stay in your shelter, this is about as far as you really need to go. You don't need to have anything too crazy. It's going to be uncomfortable as it is in a tight spot, and likely dark, and likely it's going to be stuffy because there's not too much air circulation. But staying in there as long as you possibly can is the best. Actually, the CDC says that if you have a well-stocked spot, stay there for 7 days. Now, I don't know if you know what 7 days in a in a shelter might look like, but it is an extraordinary feat. But if you can, when you leave the shelter, you're likely not going to have any of the effects of the irradiated dust. So we have these Lucy's. I've got several of these running around the house, and we're going to have at least one extra one in the kit. This is a light source that can be recharged. During the day, you can put it out in near the window and it will recharge itself. These actually will last a few days, using them a couple hours a day without any problem. It's about on that third day where you're going to want to start to test out the waters and get out of your shelter. At this point, you're going to want to mask up with something a lot more sturdy than this. When we come out of our shelter, we want to mask all the way up. Bob's wearing a military grade gas mask with an NBC filter. These are the 40 mil, and you can buy these. In fact, I have about 6 or 8 of the replacement Scott's ones, and these are really good to have. We're also going to want to have a chem biosuit. Okay, it's not that you're going to die if you don't have this, but what you're trying to avoid is the situation of getting any contaminant on you for a period of time and getting sick in the long run. So if you can keep that to a minimum, what you're going to do, so for me, I have 3 of these. I'm going to don one suit. My wife's going to use duct tape and seal all the brakes. I'm going to put on the mask, and I'm going to go start to load the truck and see if the truck will run and get it ready to leave. Until that, I'm not doing anything about my family. They're going to stay in the shelter. They're going to reseal it up. I'm going to take the risk and go out there and get everything ready. When it's time for the family to leave, I'm going to go ahead and wash myself off and get rid of this suit and put on a new suit. The rest of the family has their mask. This is a gas mask for my son. It's designed for a small child. And my wife has her own. And they both have their own hazmat suits. We're going to put these suits on, and we're going to start the process of evacuating the valley upwind. We're going to leave the valley upwind and then head to our retreat location. The only things you need to be thinking about when it comes to that is, remember, not every vehicle is going to be running on the road, so people might want to take it or ask you for a lot of favors and help trying to get out. And 2, don't 100% believe that your city is the only city that took a nuclear strike. There is a chance that other cities will take that strike too. And you need to remember what the upwind from those cities are. So if I go directly west from where I am, it's going to be a while, but potentially I could run out from fallout from LA. And that's not what we're looking for. So we want to be cognizant that there are potential other areas. When it comes to your shelter, I want you to think about a couple of different things. 1, you need to put some forethought into how it would be to stay with your child and your wife in a small, compact area. I would likely throw as much of the material that's in that shelter out and into my bathroom before I laid down some things to sleep on. Try and make as much room as you can. 2, remember, you're not coming out for 3 days and people all need to use the restroom. I'm going to go ahead and split off for a second and show you a kit that you can put together that's pretty easy, but you should probably have into the back of your corner of your closet. All right, so when it comes to the idea of having to use the restroom while you're in your shelter, is not a very comfortable one. But what we can do is, this right here is a fold-out 3-legged restroom. It's a dusty because this is the one that I take when I go camping all the time. But in a pinch, this will work, right? However, This right here is the seat for the luggable loo. I have done a video, and it is basically a bucket, and inside the bucket is toilet paper, plastic bags, and baby wipes. And you go ahead and watch that video. You'll be impressed with how easy it is to put something like to get that together. But it would make the situation a lot more pleasant if you were to put a little forethought together and put something like that together. So, all right, we'll move on. Now, we briefly talked about water, and these bobs that hold about 100 gallons each will be in both of the bathtubs. And this is a really great product for about $20. It's a big plastic bag that you put onto the faucet and you fill it up, and it will keep all the contamination out of the water. Now, this is a big deal, but this will mostly be used for washing. I really suggest that each person have some sealed bottled water inside the shelter, and each person needs one of these per day. So if you're going to be there for 3 days and there's 3 people, this is just drinking water, not washing or cooking, right? This is just drinking. In preparedness, it's 3 gallons per person per day, but that is washing, cleaning, and drinking. We're only talking about drinking in this, and you're going to want 9 of these hiding in the back of your closet. That way it's already there. It's already nice and cool. You don't have to scramble around the house figuring out how you're going to purify water. It's there. Also, the MREs. Understand that each of these you could survive off of one of these per day, which means if I really, really wanted to, we would only put, 6 of these, 9 of them in, 2 adults and 1 kid for 3 days. But you're gonna put as many as you can in your bag, right? Because kids will be kids. They're not gonna wanna eat everything. And there's a lot of snack foods and there's a lot of calories in here. Don't stress yourself out trying to starve yourself for the first couple of days. Have plenty of these available. All of this stuff goes into one bag, except for maybe the water and your toilet supplies. And you're gonna put the bag inside the closet somewhere, and you're gonna put the water and have everything ready to go. The only thing that you're gonna bring in would potentially be maybe a rifle for myself. You're gonna bring your cooler with any kind of food that you don't have to cook from your refrigerator, and that's about it. You're gonna wait out the 3 days. All right, as a recap, you can survive this. Keep that in your mind. It's highly unlikely that you're going to be the one caught in the center of a nuclear blast. It is really important that you put just a little bit of time, effort, and knowledge into this particular project, and make sure your family understands your wishes and what you would like to have happen. If you're stuck away from home, do what you have to do. If your child is stuck away from home, do what you have to do. But if you have your bases covered, it's good to wait out certain things and then move faster after that. This is the one time that you're not going to rush home as fast as you can, because you might get home and then you're going to die from radiation poisoning a few days later because you didn't take any heed or warning to this issue. If you can get home quick, get home quick. If you have any questions, by all means, hit me in the comment section. I am not a subject matter expert. I am a radiation detection expert at work, and I will tell you that I have learned quite a bit about radiation, but when it comes to nuclear events, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving you general information. By all means, do your research. Do what you need to do to keep your family safe. Stay safe out there.